Hello, Tiger sports fans, and thanks for joining us for a new week of the Perry Thomas Show here on the Campbellsville University Sports Network. Matt Payton with you as we visit with the head coach of Fighting Tiger football, Perry Thomas. The Tigers off this past week, an upcoming trip to Bluefield, coach. But before we get into that matchup here down the stretch or here in just a little bit, let's talk a bit about the off week and what that did for Campbellsville University, what that did for your players and staff as a whole.
Well, it was a great week for us. We got a chance in practice to focus on us totally, without thinking about the opponent at all. No game planning, just go out and focus on the things that we have to get better at, and some of the things we're struggling at. And also to get healthy a little bit, try to get some guys rested up, some guys that actually played in week 3 but needed a little more time to heal up. We kind of held them back on some things, and it was a good week for us, good week of practice. Coaches got to get out and recruit, and we hit the state pretty heavily, got most of our schools in. There's still a few left that we got to get out and visit, but it was a positive week for us. Now we have to transition that back into game week and get ready to win a game.
Not getting into X's and O's, especially about Bluefield yet, but when you have that off week before a team, can you get into a situation where you can watch too much film and kind of maybe overanalyze things if you're not careful?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be careful on burning guys out on your opponent. And, be honest with you, last week we didn't even touch Bluefield. Then, you get later in the year, if you had an open week, you might sneak some practices in, focusing on that next team, especially if it's for like a conference title or something. But for us, we're so young and immature in spots that we just have to get better. I mean, our big issue right now is not our opponents per se, it's more us. So our whole focus was on us. But yes, you have to be careful of doing too much on your opponents too early and burning the guys out on them.
What's Perry Thomas do on a bye week on a Saturday afternoon? Are you a college football junkie? Do you sit at home and watch? Do you get away from the game? What do you do?
A little bit of both. It depends on the year. This open week came so early that I actually watched a little bit of college football Saturday, and then watched some movies and got away a little bit. And then later on in the year, I don't fool much with college football at all. It's more so just kind of getting my own self together and getting ready for the grind coming back up. But watched a little college football. There was some exciting games, a couple of big games in the state. Got to watch those and kept up with some scores.
We'll take a quick break, come back. When we talk with Coach, we'll look at the division standings for both the East and the West side of the Mid-South Conference. We'll take a look at how they're shaking out through the first month or so here of the college football season. Stay with us on the Perry Thomas Show.
A champion doesn't get days off. It takes determination and drive to realize goals. From long nights to early mornings. From the courts to the classrooms to online. At Campbellsville University, this is why we play. This is how we learn. This is where champions are made. Find your calling for a life change at campbellsville.edu.
Thanks for staying with us, Tiger fans, on the Perry Thomas Show. Matt Payton with you as we talk with the head coach of Fighting Tiger football, Perry Thomas, about the Mid-South Conference with that bye week. Gives us a chance to kind of break down the conference just a little bit here. We're almost a month into the season. Some teams have played 4 games, Coach, and going quick spectrum around the conference, just your overall assessment and overview of things early. Not a ton of games on the West Division side. We'll take a look at the standings here in a moment, but not a ton of games on the West Division side. A lot of games played inside the division on the East side.
Yeah, I mean, there's some tremendous teams in the league still. You look at the East side, you got U Pike and Cumberland and Cumberland, Kentucky, and Union that's doing better than they've done in the past. Cumberland, Kentucky, I think is 2-2. They lost to the Cumberland, Tennessee, but they're having another good year. And Bethel on our side is rolling. They got votes for the top 25 this week, and Faulkner's still up there in the top 25, and Georgetown and Lindsay and Reinhardt. So it's shaping up to be another great year in the league on both sides. And early games really aren't going to factor in as much unless they're conference in conference games. Those crossover games really aren't going to factor much except for AP ratings. because most of our games are going to be at the tail end where we have to win those league games. So it's going to shape up to be a great year, a challenging year, just like it always is.
As we take a look at the Western Division standings for the Mid-South Conference, at the top of the list for this week, a month into the season, you'll see Lindsey Wilson College. They've got a 1-0 conference record, 4-0 overall. Bethel, coach, you talked about playing really well to start the season, 3-0, as is Reinhardt, who is also in the top 25. Faulkner in the top 25. They're 2-1 on the season. Faulkner, the big game against Georgetown this week, I believe,
Yes,
the top 25
Faulkner.
matchup.
Yeah.
Then Campbellsville University looking for win number 1 against Bluefield this week, and Cumberland University at the bottom. That Lindsey Wilson, Cumberland University, the lone game inside the Western Division, coach. And as you see that list there, any surprises, anything jump out at you?
No, I mean, it would shape up the way you would expect things to be right now. And obviously, we wouldn't want to be 0-3, but I think we're still in the picture. Cumberland University, their 2 losses is to Lindsey Wilson and to Georgetown. So, they don't have bad losses. Faulkner lost to a Southeastern team, and they beat this Bluefield team a few weeks ago. And, of course, the other teams are rolling along great.
You talked about the end of the game and the end of the season and the way the schedule works out. Even though that 0-3 is not pretty, that's not where you want to be.
Right.
You've still got the benefit of all those conference, those divisional games coming up down the line. And I know every year that's your main focus.
Yeah, I mean, that's our focus, is to get ready for the league play. And I was talking to the staff the other day in staff meeting. Last year, we were struggling early, and we got the league play, and we rolled it off. And if people remember 2 years ago, when we won the league, but we lost a game in conference to Cumberland University. So, there's hope out there. We just have to start winning somehow. And but we're not out of the picture. So, those teams early can get excited, but I think those coaches are smart enough to know that there's a long season. And those teams that are behind, like us and Cumberland University, we understand that this is a long season. So there's a lot of football left to be played.
And again, to kind of further that point, you reel off 5 wins, 6 wins, and 5 wins in conference in the division. Those aren't cupcake wins.
No.
Those are all teams that 3 of them ranked in the top 25. Bethel getting votes as well, like you mentioned earlier. So it's not like you can just cruise through the division and not, catch anybody's attention. Those are impressive wins if you can knock them down the road.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to come out of our league, especially our side, and win the league and not make it to the playoffs. Georgetown did it last year on the East, but unfortunately for them, they didn't have a lot of top 25 teams on their side last year, and I think they finished 6-4 and didn't make it to the playoffs. But on our side, with Lindsey Wilson, Faulkner, and Reinhardt being top 20 teams, 2 of those top 10 teams, and then Bethel getting votes, if we're able to walk through that thing, or Cumberland University goes through there, then they're going to get in the playoffs, and as long as you take care of the other games along the way. So there's hope out there for everyone. It's a lot of football to be played, and the story isn't finished being told yet on this season.
And we take a look at the east side, the other side of the Mid-South Conference, at the top of the rankings, Georgetown, 1-0 in conference, 2-1 overall, as is Union. They're 1-0, 2-1 overall. Cumberland's and U-Pike boast wins inside the division. They're both 2-2 on the season. KCU and Bluefield looking for their first wins of the season. Bluefield 0-1 in conference play. And then Cincinnati Christian University down at the very bottom, 0-3 in the conference, 0-4 overall, right. Coach. And you kind of take a look at that. Union and U-Pike perhaps improved teams. And then, of course, Georgetown and Cumberland's have kind of been staples on that side here in the recent years.
Right. And, Georgetown's losses to Lindsey Wilson. So they have a quality loss right there, and then they have some good wins. And Union and U-Pike are certainly better teams, and they came in, they just whooped our butts. So those are much improved teams. And then, of course, the University of the Cumberlands, they're always going to be a strong, solid team.
And then Cincinnati Christian being the new guy, so to speak, their schedule really not favorable to any type of.
Right.
It's tough in that first year of the startup program, but 0-3 in the division to start right out of the
right,
game.
and they've lost to some good teams, and I mean they're going to be fine. We've watched them on film a little bit against some of the other people, Union I think it was, and they have some talent. And as the year goes on, I think you'll see them getting better.
Well, Coach, we'll let you take a quick break. We'll get Matt Atwood, wide receivers coach, in here for the next segment. We'll talk to him about some of these Campbellsville University Tiger receivers and some of the offensive keys for Saturday's matchup with Bluefield here on the Perry Thomas Show.
Excellence.
Nurturing.
Rooted.
Diversity.
Experience personal, academic, and spiritual growth at Campbellsville University.
Welcome back to the Perry Thomas Show on the Campbellsville University Sports Network. Matt Payton with you as the Tigers get geared up for their matchup with Bluefield College this Saturday. Kickoff 1:30. The Tiger Tailgate Show begins at 1 p.m. on 88.7 The Tiger. You can also catch us on TuneIn Radio, on the app, or the website online. Visiting now with the wide receivers coach here at Campbellsville University, Matt Atwood. And Coach, it's been a lot of fun over the last few years. You've had great quarterback play, great receivers come through. A little bit of a rocky start, however, to this 2016 season. What's the mindset around the Hawkins Athletic Center and this team as you guys try to kind of right the ship this week?
Yeah, we have had a rough start. We've been really close in the 3 games that we've lost, but we haven't been able to get over that hump. We're used to winning those tight games that come down to a possession or 2 possessions here and there. And right now we've just struggled to get over that and make that one or 2 plays that gets us there. But the team is upbeat. We had a great week of practice last week. Attacking our weaknesses and trying to improve ourselves and what we can do as an offense and a defense and as a team together. The boys aren't defeated. Their attitudes are great. They're really fired up. They want to go get this win. They're hungry to get out on the field this weekend and show that we are a good football team. Because around the complex we all know it and we can see it. And we all understand, but until we do it on the field on a Saturday, it just doesn't, there's nothing to show for it. But it's a hard-working team.
Until we get into, we'll wait a few minutes before we get into Bluefield, I should say, and some of these receivers. Talk to me about that bye week for you. I know you're out recruiting. Does it give you a chance to recharge that battery a little bit, even though we're still early in the season?
Yeah, I don't feel burnt out or too tired. I got out recruiting all last week and really was able to find a couple of kids that we feel good about. I got to visit with a Pulaski County receiver, Jake Johnson, who's going to be a household name for somebody in 2017. We just hope it's us. And, also I got to meet with my receivers and, attack some things that we haven't particularly done well in the first 3 games and that they know we got to improve. And so we were able to kind of circle the wagon to get things going in a positive direction and also get some guys rested up and a little bit more healthy.
Speaking of a household name, Tyus Alcorn, a guy that Tiger fans are very familiar with. He's the NCCAA Player of the Week 2 weeks ago in that matchup here at home with Union College. And he sets the single-game receiving record in school history, over 230 yards. That record was actually a 14-year-old record held by Shane Riley against Union College. And you guys had some gentlemen that were close a few times, Demetrius Gibson, Jared Harrington, Trevon Chapman. Finally, it's Tyus that's able to break through and knock that record down. And
it's funny, like when we're talking about that record, I knew that after the fact we had guys close, but during the game you never think about stuff like that. I actually didn't realize Tyus had broken the record until I was watching the film on Saturday night and I was like, wow, he had a really good game, much better than I even thought. And then I started adding things up and looking and noticed that he had broken that. And Tyus is an exceptional player, an exceptional young man. He's come through a lot and he's had injuries and he's had other things going on and he's just a fighter. He's my guy that I can look to at any moment on the field in practice or in a game, and he's that energy charge for that whole group. They look to him to make those plays and to provide that energy and that spark, and he does a great job of doing that. He's aggressive and he takes a lot of pride in his ability on the field and that people can't guard him.
That receiving core, top to bottom, probably as deep as you can find in the country or hope to have. You start talking about getting Jacob Lamb back, and you got guys like Keanu and Kendon Young. Of course, Connor Dunn's out at the moment, but Zarek Willis, another guy, and Deron Osborne's made some plays here and there. The top to bottom, I mean, it's hard to defend those guys week in and week out.
Yeah, they're a very athletic crew. All of them can hurt you from anywhere on the field. We've got some things that they need to still improve and do better. Obviously, if you've watched us play, I'm not going to shy away from our position needs to play a little bit better, and they love that. They have a chip on their shoulder about, hey, we want to continue to perform better and get things going. But yeah, those young guys are out there making plays too. A lot of guys that you haven't heard of before this year, but they have a lot of pride in that position and their abilities, top to bottom. All those guys feel like we can make this play when it's our numbers called. Kenan Young's done a really good job for us coming on. You know, he's still learning, and he's still a young guy, and he's still got things that he's like, Coach, I don't even know what I need to be doing here. But he's an awesome kid, has an awesome attitude, and has work ethic that's not matched by many people that I've ever coached. So he really gets after it. You know, Duran and Duff, those young guys are getting in there, and they got a lot better this week too. You know, those guys got a lot of reps. And obviously we hope to get Keanu back full go this week. So we'll find out a lot more about that as the week goes on. But right now he's very probable for the game on Saturday. And that's huge. You know, he's a guy that's proven. We love to hand him the ball and bring him into motion. And he's a great decoy and things of that nature too. So he's definitely a missing piece to the puzzle. So we need him in there, and we need his attitude and spark and fire out there on the field.
You talk about Kendon and Keanu just a little bit there, and hopefully get Keanu back. That's a unique situation with Cousins, and Kendon's a local guy. He played at Campbellsville High School, grew up here locally in Campbellsville and Taylor County. But do you see anything with those two during practice or anything like that? I know they didn't necessarily grow up, you know, around each other as Keanu grew up in Bardstown, but do you ever notice anything with those two in practice? Do they cut up like cousins? Or
Yeah, they're more like brothers, to be honest, than cousins. When I look at them and their interaction, they act like brothers. And it's always funny, like if I'm getting on one of the two of them or correcting them, the other one is always like in the background, not like trying to defend them, but like laughing, like looking at them like, yeah, you're getting in trouble, like coach is on you and stuff like that. So, but those two are great kids. They were definitely raised well. But they're very fiery competitors on the field, and they feed off each other. Looking forward to seeing them both out there on the field again together. You know, they've been a dynamic duo in terms of kick returns. We've been really good on kick return for that unit as a whole. Those other 9 guys are doing a great job blocking up front, but those 2 guys are doing a great job fielding the ball, and then whoever doesn't have it, picking up an off guy, and they really feed off each other. They're very competitive, so both of them go out there to try to kind of, you know, show the other one who's boss, and they have a lot of fun with it. It's a very loving relationship between them, but you can tell they love to get after it.
Now, Coach, we got about 30 seconds left. Real quick, as we kind of break down Bluefield a little bit, if you can, in 30 seconds. But offensively against their defense this week, what are some of the keys for you guys?
Yeah, you know, they're very athletic. They're very fast. They play very hard. We definitely have some things that we feel like we can exploit. You know, some guys should have a big game that maybe haven't yet, as of yet. Last year, we were able to screen them real heavy. We threw a lot of quicks to uncovered guys. You know, this year, obviously, they've learned from that mistake, and they don't leave a lot of people uncovered at the snap. So they're going to bring people up, and they're going to play, you know, kind of in your face sometimes. And, you know, they switch things up defensively. You'll see a lot of different coverages. We have to be on point as a receiving core and a QB of seeing what coverage they're running this play, this down, and we got to execute. You know, we got to catch the ball. We got to run great routes. And, you know, when we get those play action looks, they got to be scores this week.
Now, Coach, best of luck to you as you look for win number 1.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
The Tigers in Bluefield, Saturday afternoon, 1:30 on the Campbellsville University Sports Network. Matt Payton here with Coach Matt Atwood, the wide receivers coach at Campbellsville University. We'll step away, come back, and get Coach Thomas's thoughts on this matchup with Bluefield here on the Perry Thomas Show. Welcome back to the Perry Thomas Show, Tiger fans. As the head coach Perry Thomas steps back in, now we look ahead to this weekend's matchup against Bluefield College. And Coach, we talked a little bit off the air. This trip to Bluefield, I believe the longest trip in conference. It's about 6 hours. There's no great way to get there. You probably go through Huntington and down Charleston and all that stuff to get to Bluefield, Virginia. But the longest trip, you guys will no doubt take off Friday and get that in and hopefully pick up that win down there.
Yeah, it's a long haul for us. Not as long as some of the games going to be in the future in this new mega conference we're having, but it's the longest one we'll have this year unless we get deep in the playoffs or something. And there's no easy route to get there, and it's kind of a weird situation because Bluefield College is in Virginia, and then we play and we will actually stay in Bluefield, West Virginia. So it's kind of a weird situation, but we're excited to get back to playing. When you're 0-3, you're hungry to fix some things, but you're also hungry to continue to play so you can try to get a victory in there. And it's not going to be an easy game. They're a much improved team, very talented team. I don't know if people remember last year's squad that came in here. They had a great deal of talent. And those guys are another year older, and they're playing with a lot of seniors now and juniors. So they're a very experienced team, very talented on both sides of the ball, and we're going to have our hands full.
You talk about that, and both teams looking for win number one. Obviously, both teams hungry. They'll look to try to hold serve, so to speak. They're at home this weekend.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that they will look at us as a possible win because we're 0-3, and people get up to play us right now because of our success over the last few years. You can tell how people celebrate after they beaten us, and coaches are, high-fiving and going crazy. So I think that they'll look at us as a possible win. Now, they have a very capable staff, so I'm sure their staff is keeping their heads in it and keeping them grounded. But if I'm sitting in their shoes, I'd be looking at us as a possible win. So we're going to have to go in there ready to play. We're going to have to improve on those things that we've been struggling with, especially on the defensive end, and see if we can hold teams down for a quarter or so we can score enough points to win.
Well, in Bluefield, a team coach, you look at the numbers, a team that really wants to run the football, averaging not quite 200 yards per game running the football, less than 90 through the air. So obviously they want to try to establish the run early and get that part of their game going. What do you guys have to do defensively?
Well, they're the type of team, kind of like the University of Cumberland, that can lull you to sleep because they do run the ball so much, but they have a very capable passing game. So you have to be sharp on the back end, which is where a lot of our struggles have come. But because they run RPO stuff or run pass option type plays, we have to be disciplined on our assignments, and they're very aggressive. They're huge up front and very aggressive. Running backs hit the hole hard, and quarterbacks are very good football players. So we're going to have to obviously go in and stop the run and limit their abilities to make big play off the run and the pass. Just be a little more fundamental, play with a little more guts to get things done. And then offensively, we got to be able to block their D front. They have very athletic defensive personnel. A couple of big linemen that gave us some fits last year, even though, we scored pretty good on them. We have to be able to block their personnel to move the chains and secure the ball.
If I ask you to compare them to maybe one of the three opponents you've seen this year, is Cumberland's the closest to that?
I'm not sure. I think they remind me more of U-Pike and Union offensively. Cumberland's style of running, but more spread type stuff like U-Pike and Union. And then defensively, they're more active, kind of like Union was, active with some good personnel and spots. And the thing we have to do is focus on penalties also. Penalties, obviously last game we had 190-something yards in penalties. Now, not all those I agree with. Obviously, there's a lot of penalties, but whether we agree with them or not, they happen somehow where officials feel the need to call them. And, we're not good enough to overcome those. Some years you're good enough to overcome those penalties. This year, we're not good enough yet to overcome 190 yards, so we have to deal with that. We
talked to Coach Atwood about Keanu Young. Hopefully he'll be back this week. And talk me through the rest of the injury report, however. What's it look like? I know linebackers have been short at times. I saw Daniel Sansom on the two deep. Hopefully he's a guy that you can get back this weweek. Walk me through that a bit.
Well, we'll have, Bruce hopefully will be back to help us a little on defense. He helped us a few plays on defense the last game, but he played kicking game the entire night. And hopefully this week he'll help us some on defense from an outside linebacker standpoint. And I think Keith Foster's still out. We're not sure on his status for the season right now. Connor Dunn will still be out. Hopefully we'll be getting him back here in a couple of weeks, and then Kiana will be back, and Daniel Sampson will be playing. We'll see how it goes. We're getting closer to having the full squad back in there. Still limited in a couple of spots. Linebackers we're still a little short, but those guys are in shape and they'll go play.
Coach, last week we ended the show. You told me you're going to win. Get that first one this week on Saturday?
Yeah, no doubt. We have to. We have to get it done, and our guys are excited. They're ready. They've worked hard, and that off week kind of makes it a long time to play. So I think they're hungry to go play.
Coach, best of luck to you.
Thank you.
We'll talk to Coach Thomas next week, hopefully recapping Campbellsville's first win of the 2016 season. You can catch the game at Saturday. It's a 1:30 kickoff as Campbellsville squares off with Bluefield College. The pregame coverage starts on 88.7 The Tiger at 1 p.m. You can catch kickoff at 1:30. We'll see you next week here on the Perry Thomas Show.
Endurance.
Ambitious.
Dedicated.
Fellowship.
Purpose. Find yours at Campbellsville University.